No worries. All right, welcome everybody back from the Wall Street Silver community. We have a special friend, a special YouTuber, Sal from Salivate Metals. Sal, how you doing today, sir?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very good. We also have Jim Lewis and Lee Justo from the Wall Street Silver community. We're gonna get right into it, Sal, and get start asking you questions from the Reddit community and a bunch of other stuff about the silver market. Lee, Jim, who would like to go first?
Well, I'll go
I
first.
could go ahead,
Sal,
Jim.
tell us, I'm looking at your channel right now on YouTube. It's Salivate Metal, which is a great name, by the way. A lot of us on Wall Street Silver, we drool over, you know, uh, we call it silver porn
Yes.
pictures of.
Especially those people who have like central banks in their
Yeah,
house.
Right.
some people have some crazy stacks, and it looks like you're into the same thing on your channel. Tell us how you got started with your channel, Salivate Metal.
Well, it was back in January of 2013 when I actually started the channel, but I've been kind of lurking around YouTube since about 2007 and 2008. And I like to think of the silver community in terms of generations. And the first generation of the silver community had some folks talking about silver and how with the economic crisis that happened at the end of 2007 and 2008, how this is where we should be concentrating our time and efforts in sound money. That is silver, especially silver, but also gold. And so it was a very small community, if you can even call it that, just people posting videos talking about their acquisitions, and really the art of the unboxing was born. People would get watch these unboxing videos, and it was just that was kind of what started it and what inspired me to kind of start my own channel was that. And then it kind of has evolved from that point of view. But I noticed some channels were called silver. They had silver in the name, like Silverfish VT, was one of the early guys. And so I thought, you know what? I don't want to just limit myself to silver, but I really love heavy metal,
Nice.
and not just this what you're talking, this kind of heavy metal, but also like the heavy metal music too. So I kind of thought, well, you know what, I'm going to marry the two, and with a little Pavlovian response, you kind of drool over the metals because we do love our silver and gold, and so that's how the channel name was born. But I do talk about other metals as well, everything from tungsten to titanium to rhodium to
Nice.
palladium. And
Hmm.
I still want to get a little iridium. I think that would be cool to get some iridium.
What about uranium? Do you have physical
I,
uranium?
I've done a video about uranium actually, but that's one video that I do not want to hold.
If you can't hold or touch your physical uranium, you don't really own it. You know that, right?
That's right. That's true. Well, if you touch uranium, it will own you for sure.
That's for sure.
It's
Hey, have
it's
you done
it's
anything with rhodium?
Yes, I actually I'm not I don't have many points to where I can make wise investments, but I did buy rhodium, and I have a whole playlist on my channel for rhodium, and I bought an ounce of it for $1,100 with a $400 premium,
Wow.
and it did get to a high of $29,000. So if you're bored, you want to go into a wormhole, check out my rhodium playlist.
Nice.
We'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking right now with the market? I mean, it's just been crazy times. It's getting harder and harder to get silver. Have you seen that as well? And is there anything that you're seeking that you can't find right now in terms of
Yes,
collecting?
it is tough to get silver out there. It's definitely a tight market, and it's exciting to see all the new stackers of silver, and silverbacks apes they're called. I mean, and I remember there's a guy, a member of the community called Silverback Stacker, whose channel was several years old now, but he was using that term quite a while ago, and but it's neat to see it kind of revitalized with the Wall Street Silver Forum, and it's exciting to see. It really is. And but one thing I do when I talk about the markets, I'm kind of a cautious guy about what's going on, because when I first started the channel was right at the end of the JP Morgan stack silver movement. You guys remember that time?
Yeah, that
And
was started by who started that? Was that a Chris Duane thing?
I think he was part of it, and others too. And though it was a noble cause, it's like it's a big elephant in the room to try to get, try to take down. And same thing with the COMEX. And so what I always tell people, it's like, you know what, especially with the Wall Street Silver Group, and I've actually have made some videos directed at that community, is like, I think that it's exciting to stack silver, but to look beyond the squeeze, you know what I mean? Because it's a long-term proposition. I've been doing this since the 90s, and I've seen the price of silver move every which way, including loose. And it's been exciting to see, but I think people get so excited and think, hey, it's just around the corner, the market is going to explode, and then they get very disappointed when it doesn't get to that $1,000 level. So I'm looking at this as a long-term proposition. To me, I think silver sells itself, and I believe that silver has done its job for well over 100 years and wealth as a wealth preservation tool. And that's what I look at silver as. But it's not just that. I think it's a beautiful metal. I like it for its beauty, and as well as for its collectability. There's a lot of different ways to accumulate silver, from 90% to 3/9 fine silver bullion, art bars, specialty struck pieces. There's all different ways to accumulate silver.
Well, I'm looking at some of your recent videos that you did, and it looks like you cover the whole gamut. You're not just talking about silver. You talk about sort of the economics of what's going on in the silver market. I see in a recent channel you discussed, Hungary tripling their gold reserves, things like that. So, what are you seeing? What are you seeing out there in terms of, you've been at this game a long time. Do you feel like there is a shortage out there developing, or are we all just fooling ourselves that buying all this retail silver is not really going to accomplish anything?
I believe there is a shortage of silver stock. In other words, finished product, like what you see here. And so now there's bars. There was a guy named John Adams who posted a tweet about how the Royal Mint has run out of silver bars. And that's true. If actually, since then, they've come into more stock. But whenever there's a big squeeze, for lack of a better term, because I think that's a perfect term, we're squeezing right now the retail market. But I don't know but to me, it does not mean that we're running out of silver in general. The miners are going to keep mining it, and it's going to eventually transform from mined silver to refined silver, doré bars, and then moved into pressed blanks and all that. So it'll eventually catch up at some point or another, unless we continue to squeeze, and the squeeze is sustained. Before Wall Street, before the Wall Street Silver Reddit group was formed, I did a video about the silver to gold ratio, how we could see the silver to gold ratio get to 20 to 1, which is insane to think about, because even at the height of the high prices of silver in 2011, the gold to silver ratio was only at 32. But what that would be was a massive increased demand from the investment side. In other words, people accumulating silver bars, rounds, coins, and it's got to be sustained movement of this. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the beginnings of it now. Mm-hmm. If it's sustainable, and people tell me, they say, because they criticize me because I say, well, hey, sooner or later this too shall pass. But I want to be proven wrong with this. So Ivan, what you've done with the Wall Street Silver Forum, I think is amazing, because people are saying, well, Sal, we're in it for the long time. We're not selling. We're stacking, and we're gonna keep on stacking. And I think that's great. If that's true, then I think this thing could be sustained, and we will see the gold to silver ratio narrow. The reason why I think that's important is because silver is seen today as more of an industrial metal. In fact, if you look for the uses of silver, it is utilized as an industrial metal, and also biotechnical. There's all kinds of the uses of silver is more diverse now than ever before. Mm-hmm. And so I believe we're going to get to a point now where if we see a sustained demand from our side, the physical side, then I believe you'll see that gold to silver ratio narrow greatly.
Well, Sal, I get what you're saying about the demand side, But a lot of people don't realize on the supply side, the miners are producing less ever since 2015, 2016. It peaked in those years at about 900 million ounces a year. And since then, it's been declining every year, and to the point where last year it was only 800 million ounces. So, you know, there's an argument to be made that mine supply is in decline because we've already mined out all the easy silver mines, all the easy silver ore, the high grade silver ore. So, you know, I could see it also happening from the supply side, just being in terminal decline over the next few years, where industrial and investment demand exceed miner supply each year. And we have these deficits happening where all these billions of ounces that are in vaults essentially get sucked into the market.
Yes, I could definitely see that. I think with COVID and with the slowdown in mining, especially in the last year, but as you were saying, it's been going on since 2015, especially for the primary silver miners. But what I see happening is now we're seeing a lot more silver being mined as a byproduct of copper, zinc, lead mines. And with this new administration and in the United States, but even around the world, we're seeing more and more silver being produced for photovoltaics, green energy. And so I believe that means that there's going to be a lot more demand for not only silver, but copper. And so
exactly,
if you're going to get more copper mining, by default, you will get more silver mining.
And but that's like a 5 to 10 year process to bring on new mines. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's going to be fixed this year or next year.
No, it probably won't. But the thing is we got to get back in, you know, as far as the production, they will utilize existing mines too. You know, there's a lot of complexities just in the mining sector, and I'm not a professional there, but my guess is probably, I mean, there's a lot of discoveries and geology and research and finding new and even working with existing mines. And as copper's gone up, copper's doubled over the last year as well. So there's a lot of financial incentive for these mines to produce. And there's also been talking about how some of these miners, like First Majestic, heard an interview with Keith Neumeyer, and he says that he's held back a lot of silver while the price is low. And now that the price is, well, the price is still somewhat low on the spot side at least. But once the price goes up, he's going to release some of that silver.
Did you see that Endeavor actually just announced the same thing this past week in their earnings release, that they held 500,000 ounces off the market? They didn't sell it because of low prices in March, and they're waiting for higher prices before they actually release it into the market. About half of their production for the first 3 months of 2021.
Wow. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different factors I think that come into play, but I do think you're right. In fact, the Silver Institute has talked about how demand has been higher than supply for the last couple of years, but notice that it hasn't really had an effect on prices. Now, how you can interpret that, people interpret that differently. In fact, my view and interpretation of that is much different than the vast majority of people, especially on Wall Street Silver, but also in the community. And I think that was what results for some people not liking what I say on my channel because of my views on manipulation.
Well, let's hear it. We'd love to. Yeah. We're not censoring anyone. We want to hear what you got to say.
Well, thanks. And by the way, part of the reason why I'm reluctant to kind of toe the line, so to speak, on manipulation is because I feel like we can have a false sense of hope and thinking, well, hey, if there's this big cabal to keep the price of silver down, and that then somehow some dam is going to break and the price discovery is just going to boom and it's going to go through the roof. But I have done a little bit of research and watched different videos and read different things about it. I've just not seen. I guess I'm more in the Rick Rule camp. I don't know if you know who Rick Rule is.
Oh yeah, we've interviewed Rick.
Yeah, and but I've only recently discovered that he's kind of feels how I feel about this. In other words, we know there is manipulation that goes on. I've covered it on my channel in what I refer to as micro manipulation. And what I define micro manipulation is that within an organization, such as a singular or even a group of big banks working separately within their trading desks, individuals will manipulate through spoofing, through other tactics to get the price of silver to go up or down in order for them to profit for selfish motivation. That has been documented and it has been prosecuted, and JP Morgan will have to pay a fine of $980 million. Is the
920. Yeah, you're right.
And
So
there's that kind of manipulation that has been well documented and has been proven.
Yeah.
But what I have yet to see is a cabal or a coordinated effort between banks and organizations to suppress the price of silver. In other words, just to keep it down. Now, one could say that the Federal Reserve does that by extension. In other words, whenever they devalue the dollar and whenever they use their tools to manipulate the marketplace, which they do, I think they're manipulating the stock market because a lot of liquidity has been injected into the market, which is, I think, part of the reason why you're seeing the Dow at a record 33,000 points now. So in that regard, I believe there is macro manipulation by extension, which would carry itself out to some commodities and things like that. But overall, I don't think there is a targeted effort to keep silver or gold down. I believe in natural market forces play a bigger role, and like copper and some of these other commodities, I think silver is treated in that same regard, especially nowadays that people are seeing it, well, at least until recent months, especially since 2020 in March, when the price of silver, I think when the price of silver in March of last year crashed down to below $12 an ounce, I think people really started to wake up then. And since then, there's been a concentrated squeeze on silver and high demand and high premiums that have been going on. And then we had GameStop, and then Ivan creates Wall Street Silver. And then now it's like, boom, it's on fire, and it's amazing. And I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to mention, just we had Bill Fleckenstein on a week or two ago, and he basically is from the same standpoint of viewpoint as you in terms of manipulation. You know, it's obviously it has gone on, but he doesn't see it as like a macro Fed, big bank coordinated kind of effort. But that said, the reason why we had him on and the reason why I like to have people like you on is there's still a great fundamental case to be investing in silver beyond the manipulation. You know, whether it's happening or not, we're going to see price appreciation in silver. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. In fact, I tell people, you know that I hold an unpopular view on many different matters. In fact, this very note right here, this Federal Reserve note, which is backwards, you know, which I know many people think my personality, my sense of humor is so backwards and off-putting, but hey, so it's rather appropriate that everything's showing up backwards here for me. But you know, one thing we know about this thing is it is trusted, it is utilized. I actually believe it's money. And I'm going to explain that in a future video. Stay tuned why I think this is still money. Yes, this little paper dollar is money. But one thing is for sure that we can all agree on, by design, the Federal Reserve devalues this at least 2% each year by design. And it's lost, what, 90% of its value since 2013 when the Federal Reserve Act was formed?
Yeah, and 1913. Yeah,
1913. So there you go. And then we see on the back here, it says, in God, well, it says it backwards, in God we trust. And, but you know what? This is really God's money, as far as we know that in the long run, this will preserve its value. I have another video entitled, Why Silver Will Never Increase in Value. And I believe that that's the case. It holds its value. And for many people, they don't understand the value of silver or gold. But we know that in the end, this is a much more stable form of money than any fiat designation. Mm-hmm. This has been money for thousands of years. I'd call it hibernating money. It's asleep now. If I take one of these silver dimes and go to the store and buy well, you can't buy much with a dime these days, but people would look at me like, what the heck is that? It looks like play money. They don't know what it is.
Mhm.
But we know the metal content contained therein with this or any other bullion product that you have out there, this little Geiger bar or what
nice.
have you. It is because of what it is. There's nothing else like silver out there. So it's one of the most unique metals there is out there. And it's malleable, it's divisible, it's fungible. All the properties of money are there. And I think that's why you're seeing a movement in some of these states, especially for gold, where you're seeing these states implement these Ethereum notes. You know what those are?
No, please tell us. I do, but please explain.
Yeah, Ethereum notes are essentially, it's a technology that takes polymer and layers it with gold, a measurable amount of gold in these notes. I don't have one handy here, but they're called gold backs. And different states are using them. Nevada was the first to use them. But they've been making these Ethereum notes for actually several years, and they're silver ones as well. And they're really fascinating, and they can be utilized and folded up and be spent as money. And some of these states are recognizing them as.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. That's because the U.S. Constitution specifically forbids the states from making other forms of currency except gold and silver. So
That's
the
right.
states are permitted under the Constitution to only take gold or silver for payments. Is that?
Really?
Yeah. The United States government is the federal government's the only one that can actually make a national currency, which is the dollar, the reserve notes. But the states under the Constitution can do gold and silver and accept it for commerce.
So then,
Is that correct, Sal?
That is correct. In fact, let's see here. It is no state shall enter any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or marque reprisal, marquee and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts. So yeah, it's right.
What that basically means is only the U.S. government can make a fiat currency. And if the states want to do something, they have to make it with gold and silver coins.
That's
and
right.
so several states have actually, I think Texas is one of them, have created a Texas mint and
bullion depository,
or depository. But some of the other recent states, I think Idaho was one. They've got a bill going right now
That's right.
to accept payments. You know, every state's different in terms of what they're doing, but there's a few. They're generally the more right-wing conservative states that are putting in place some processes where gold and silver is accepted as a currency in terms of state commerce.
So then, why?
I would just like to add that there's a good argument to be made that limit to gold and silver as money also applies to the federal government. Just saying.
Yeah, well,
Right.
The Supreme Court and the Federal Reserve Act disagree.
Yeah,
so
no.
whatever.
That's right. In fact, it was Richard Nixon that put the last nail in the coffin on that in August of 1971. Ivan, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, why doesn't every single state then just go against the Federal Reserve and start doing what Texas and everyone else is doing and just start accepting only silver and gold and that's it?
Well, there's a lot of just everyone knows Ivan is from Canada, so he's not familiar with our politics, perhaps. But in the United States, you know, there's a lot of it's you know, until recently, everyone sort of had a lot of the general population had a lot of confidence in the U.S. dollar. There was no reason to do that. It's really only since, and Sal, you correct me if I'm wrong, whether you agree with what I'm about to say. It was only around, I guess, 2008 when the Federal Reserve and the Great Financial Crisis really started printing in overdrive. I mean, before that, it was less than a couple $100 billion was the Fed balance sheet. But after the Great Financial Crisis, it moved into the trillions.
That's
and
right.
now we're sitting at close to, I don't know, $7.5 or almost $8 trillion in just printed money from the Fed. And as a result, there's now a serious question out there as to whether the dollar can remain the world reserve currency with just this massive printing that's going on and all the other things the federal government's doing. So now a couple of states are only just now thinking, all right, we need to maybe protect ourselves and reintroduce gold and silver. And it's just a few states. I'd say that, what is it, Sal? Only 3 or 4 states are really doing this seriously right now?
I think as far as it being talked about in some form or level, I think it's more than 10, but I'm not sure exactly. I've covered some of it on my channel, but yeah, it really is a matter of, the Federal Reserve doing what's known as quantitative easing. I call it quantitative queasing because it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
But they've done now 3 rounds before the latest, and the latest was after the coronavirus. But even before the coronavirus hit, back December, November of last year, the Federal Reserve was doing this backhanded deal with these banks called repurchase agreements.
Yeah.
Called the repos, and
that was September of 2019, I believe, 2019.
Yeah, that's when it started, and so it's just and now we're in QE4 or QE to infinity. In other words, it's just going on. But they've been interjecting and digitizing dollars for quite some time. The Federal Reserve Act, I guess, gave them that, and since Bretton Woods, where everything was tied to the dollar, which was tied to gold, that set us up to make the dollar the world's reserve currency after Bretton Woods in 1944. But then in 1971, when the dollar was taken completely off the gold standard, it was Henry Kissinger that came in 1973 that moved us to the petrodollar. Mm-hmm. And it was until that time that that basically when we were buying, all the energy was being purchased using dollars. And so we're still kind of under that system, even though nowadays we've kind of, it's only loosely affiliated, but now the IMF has created these reserve currencies, this breadbasket, and so that all the dough that's in that breadbasket is the strongest one in there is the dollar. And
you're referring to the SDRs?
Yeah, special drawing rights. And now they want to create special SDRs on top of that they can interject. It's a complex game because they're doing a round of quantitative easing. In a sense, sort of like, what are those NFTs, non-fungible tokens?
Yeah, the little digital,
digital farts. We can buy farts now and art, digital art, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But so the IMF is playing in that world now, and now there's a lot of different things, a lot of complexities and layers tied to it. But in the end, we're creating this illusion of value with our dollar that's really only based off of the fiat designation. Now, again, the reason why I think the dollar is still money is because that fiat designation is quite strong. We all are involved in it. We use it. We need it. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you hate the dollar. You love it. You need it. We all do. I mean, now, but the thing is we as silver and gold stackers, we understand that where the dollar is in our heads, no matter what our rhetoric is, but we also back it up with the ultimate in savings, and that is silver and gold. And to me, that's the message I want to send to people, is that it's okay to have some cash on the side. I think it's smart to have it literally on the side, as in not in the bank, because if there's a bank run, you're going to want to have something until the dollar collapses. It will be here. But in order to really protect yourself, it's good to hedge with some gold and silver. Mm-hmm. And because I think in the long run, it's going to outlast us all, including the monetary systems. And no matter what they do with the modern monetary theory that they're doing now, gold and silver is the ultimate form of money. And in the end, no matter what we agree on as to the nature of what this is, no matter what our views are on it, we all know, we come to the same conclusion that this is the ultimate form of money, silver and gold.
Well, Sal, this has been great. We're about 30 minutes in, and that's where we normally wrap these things up. We'd love to have you back, though, and make this a regular, check in with you in about 2 or 3 months and get your update on where you see the market is.
I would be honored. It would be great. And if ever any of you want to come aboard on my channel as well, I'd love to have you too. Any way you want to do it, it's been a great honor. I very much appreciate you having me on here.
We appreciate you too, Sal.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
before you go, do you have any advice for someone who's just starting to get into stacking?
Yes, I have a sage piece of advice I give to all of my viewers, and that is to keep your feet on the stars and keep reaching for the ground. No, that's an old Casey Kasem thing. No, for somebody just starting on gold and silver, I would say the first thing to do is to educate yourself. And I think the best way to educate yourself is to go and look on the Reddit forum, on Ivan's, on the Wall Street Silver, watch YouTube videos, and get a balance of viewpoints. There's a lot of different views, and I know I'm very much contrarian to a lot of the community out there. But the first thing I would tell people is don't take what I say as gospel. Do your own homework. Do your own research. Yeah. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do have a crystal ball. But it's not. But it doesn't do much. It's really made out of glass.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Sal. We really appreciate your time.
It's been fun. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone from the Wall Street Silver community. And again, Salivate Metals. Sal, we appreciate you so much. That was really, really fun.